On today's show, the Atlanta Hawks simply could not make a shot on the perimeter on this Friday evening into Saturday in Los Angeles, and the result was a double-digit loss to the Lakers. We'll get into all of what transpired and more coming up.
You are Locked On Hawks, your daily Atlanta Hawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 1879 of the Locked On Hawks podcast. I am your host, Brad Rowland, coming to you on a Friday evening, deep into the night here. Actually, it's Saturday morning as I'm recording this podcast on the East Coast. And today's show is brought to you by the folks at FanDuel Sportsbook. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get on the regular season action with FanDuel Sportsbook, because right now, if you're a new customer, you bet $5 and win that $5 bet and get $250 in bonus bets when you win that first $5 bet. The place to go is FanDuel.com to get started. I also want to encourage you at the top of the show, as I always do, to make us your first listen each and every day here at Locked On Hawks. Check us out and subscribe anywhere you get your podcasts, including YouTube, where you can like this video as you are watching it. And please tell your friends about the podcast as well. We'll dive in tonight to what became a 119-102 loss for the Hawks on the road in Los Angeles against the Lakers. And, a lot to get to on this one, obviously. Their second straight loss on this road trip, now 1-2 on the trip after opening things up with a win in Toronto. And the Hawks are now 18-17 overall, still in fine shape overall, but certainly one that feels like kind of a loss and a half in some respects, because, of course, the Hawks have the Lakers unprotected first-round pick this year, so a little bit of extra emphasis on this one. Unfortunately, it goes the wrong way for Atlanta. They were underdogs in this game on the road, according to our friends at FanDuel. That makes sense. The Lakers are a decent team, and they were at full strength basically in this game, whereas the Hawks are on this road trip, etc. Not a huge underdog situation. They were 3.5 underdogs in the game. It was a pretty tight game until the middle of the fourth quarter or so. But aside from getting Jalen Johnson and Bogdanovic back in this game, which is obviously positive on the whole, it was not a lot of fun for the Hawks, honestly. For those of you who stayed up late to watch this one, not the most enjoyable watch for the Hawks fans in your life, probably. And if you're waking up in the morning on Saturday listening to the podcast, I can just assure you of that fact. But still, we are here to break it all down for you. And look, this is an offense-first loss for Atlanta. That's a very simple way to put this. They had a 102 offensive rating. In fact, everything's pretty linear in this game because it was actually 100 possessions exactly. So 102 points, 102 offensive rating. It all makes sense. But that's a worst in the league level over a season. So the worst in the league right now is about 105 for the season. The Hawks ended up with a 102 offensive rating, and that means they just couldn't score in this game. That's the functional process there. And I'll just be playing with you on this one. By far, and I'm not stressing that on accident, I'm saying this on purpose, by far, the biggest factor in the Hawks losing this game and determining the outcome of this game overall was the Hawks missing every three they took in this one, basically. Was that the only reason they lost? No. I will share more on this game and more areas where the Hawks could have been better, for sure. But it was very clearly the number one problem in this game. In fact, it was the worst three-point shooting game of the season for the Hawks. This is in game 35. So they had 34 games where they shot better than this. And this is number 35 of 35 for Atlanta. They end up this game at 6 of 34 from three. That ties their season low with 6 makes. And it actually is a new season low in percentage with 17.6% from three-point range. Look, you might be able to win a game every once in a while doing that when you're playing a bad team or if you do everything else perfectly in a game. But if you're playing a decent team, and the Lakers are definitely decent, especially when they have LeBron and AD at home, you had to be perfect basically everywhere else. And the Hawks weren't. And three-point shooting, like, you're just not going to win. Unless the Lakers also missed all their shots, and they didn't in this game. So the Hawks ended up making 7 fewer threes than the Lakers did, even though they took 4 more than the Lakers did in this game. And if you kind of do some math around this, that accounts for 21 points of a swing. This is a game that finished with a 17-point margin. Or another way to look at it, if the Hawks even shot average from three, 35% from three in this game, if they just did that, they would have scored 18 more points. And again, they lost by 17. So obviously that's too simple. I'm not saying that's like perfect math, but it's just kind of simple ways to look at this. Like, the Hawks just couldn't make a three in this game. If you watched it, you probably felt that. The numbers tell that story. Process-wise, it wasn't always bad for the Hawks in this game offensively, but they just could not make a perimeter jumper. And look, the starters weren't perfect in this game, aside from, Trey was really good, but the bench just killed the Hawks. Outside of Onyeka Okongwu, who was actually quite productive in this game, Atlanta's bench has been enormous in this run. It's been a combination in the last 5-6 weeks of the Hawks playing good defense and also getting a lot from their bench, in particular DeAndre Hunter. But tonight, 4 guys on the rotation off the bench. Okongwu, I mentioned before, was pretty good. The other 3 guys on the perimeter, that's a combination of DeAndre Hunter, Bogdanovic, and Garrison Matthews. They combined to shoot 3 of 22 from the field and 1 of 14 from 3. There you have it in some respects. Like, that's going to get you beat more often than not. Elsewhere on the offensive side, they were okay inside the arc, 53% from 2-point range. That's just okay, but it's fine. They did have 64 points in the paint. That's a solid number. But the overall shooting in this game, because of 3-point shooting, was 47% true shooting. And that is terrible, like worst in the league by far kind of number. And that kind of tells you. The Hawks did a really good, like legitimately awesome job with ball security in this game. Only 8 turnovers on 100 possessions is actually like totally excellent. So that's a bright spot for Atlanta. They ended up winning the overall possession battle. The Hawks took more shots and kind of won the margins on the whole against the Lakers in this game. But the shooting was just unrecoverable. So I'll stop emphasizing that now. I'll probably come back to it later on, but that was the number one reason with a bullet that the Hawks lost this game. Defensively, it wasn't great either. They were better defensively than offensively by a lot. I thought it was okay in terms of actual quality defensively. The Lakers just shot the ball really well in this game, 43% from 3 for LA, and they're a middling shooting team. Not a terrible one, but not a great one either, and they made a lot of shots. They were also 7 of 13 on long twos, which is most of that's LeBron, who was just great in this game as a shooter, and it happens sometimes. He's an all-time great. He Hawks kind of ran into a buzzsaw a little bit there with LeBron. But their number 2 and number 3 guys, Anthony Davis and Austin Reeves, combined to score 38 points, yes, but on 41 shooting possessions. So they were well below average in efficiency. I saw a lot of people like talking about AD dominating the Hawks. That didn't really happen as far as a score in particular in this game. He was very inefficient, actually. And Reeves wasn't great either. But LeBron did go off for LA, and most of their supporting pieces, in particular, Dalton Knecht made 3 threes in this game. Dorian Finney-Smith made 2 threes. They made some shots. Max Christie was 1 for 2. They made some shots on the perimeter. Also, the Lakers got to the line 24 times in the first 3 quarters. They only got to the line once in the fourth quarter when the game was functionally over, but LA had a stranglehold on the free throw line in this game, which is actually pretty on brand for the Lakers. I'll say that. So it wasn't like it was a 1-game sample size. They're really, really good at getting to the line, and that happened in this game. There were some questionable officiating moments, let's just say, but along the way, LA dominated there, and the Hawks didn't make shots. And that combination really kind of swung things. The one area where the Hawks actually did struggle, like process-wise, performance-wise, in this game on defense was on the glass. They gave up 24 second chance points, and it was legitimately not great there. Quinn talked about it after the game as well. Like, it was an area where they need to be better. And it wasn't, by the way, it wasn't AD. AD had 4 offensive rebounds, but it was the other guys. Rui had 3. Austin Reeves had 4. Dorian Finney-Smith had 3 offensive rebounds. Like, it was not just the centers by any means. Like, it was more of a group effort, not boxing out, et cetera, et cetera. That was the one area where the Hawks actually weren't very good on defense. But if you ask me, like, to grade the defense in this game, it was like a C. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't good necessarily, but the Lakers made shots, in particular LeBron. And again, one more time, it was the offense, and it was particularly the 3-point shooting that sunk the Hawks in this game. If Atlanta had shot the ball reasonably well, they would have been in this game. I don't know if they'd have won it, but this game would have been very, very evenly matched. Like, yeah, this is a single-digit game well into the fourth quarter, but the combination of that, of missing shots, and Trey was really good, but like other guys weren't. Like, Jalen had a decent stat game, but wasn't very good. I didn't think by his standards in this game. Other guys struggled. Hunter was due for one of these, frankly, but he was bad in this one. So again, just to wrap it up now, we'll get into more details later on. I firmly believe it was a shooting loss. It was one of those like make or miss league kind of losses, and that's a trope for a reason. It's lazy sometimes to just say, got to make shots. Yes, I understand that. I don't like to go to that well too often. This year, it's not been a ton of that for the Hawks offensively, but this is very simple in a lot of ways. Like, the margin, the difference in this game was one team making their shots and the other team having their worst shooting on the season. And that's what this was. Maybe they'll have a worse one later on in the season, but so far, the Hawks have never been worse than the three-point shooting. And in the league where you got to make threes, that was the difference in this game. Okay, we'll get into more of how it unfolded, more details on this one in a second. First, though, a word from our partners on the podcast. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And right now, if you're a new customer, you can finish the season strong at FanDuel with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet happens to win at FanDuel. The FanDuel Sportsbook app is really easy to use. It gives you everything that you need to place your bets all in one place, and they have so many ways at FanDuel for you to pick up a W this season. That means everything from over-unders to point spreads, money lines, player props and game props, future bets, single parlays, and much more, including live betting as well. The app at FanDuel is actually safe and secure. They cover the entire range of sports as well. That includes the NBA, we talk about all the time on the podcast, plus the NFL, college football, college basketball, WNBA, MLB, hockey, golf, tennis, soccer leagues all over the world, including the U.S. and abroad, F1, NASCAR, boxing, MMA, and so much more. And the place to go is FanDuel.com to join up right now. That is FanDuel.com for your chance to win $250 in bonus bets. If your first bet, $5 bet, wins at FanDuel. That's $250 bonus bets at FanDuel.com. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, so we'll dive in now to kind of how this game unfolded and some details and observations along the way. Atlanta led this game early on, 11-6 at the outset. Dice Danton and I start for the Hawks at the point of attack, had 5 points and a steal. In the first 3 minutes or so, Trey had a good passing game early on, 3 assists pretty quickly. And the Lakers then rattled off a 14-2 run in the middle of the first quarter. And from that point forward, the Hawks trailed by a small margin most of the rest of the way. Atlanta missed 8 straight shots at one point in that stretch, which is definitely a problem. And then it was a lot of being foul happy on defense, like lots of whistles, not a lot of game flow in that first half in particular. Rotationally, no big surprises. They brought in Hunter, Bogey, and Okongwu together in the middle of that run by LA. It was Bogey's first game since the loss to Memphis before Christmas, so he's been out for a little while now. He wasn't great, but it was nice to see him back on the court, if nothing else. Okongwu played 11 straight minutes in the first half. And notably here for me, the one change that wasn't necessarily a shock, but certainly was notable, was that the Hawks did not really have a backup point guard in this game. It was Dyson Daniels in that role. They played Garrison Matthews as kind of the clear ninth man. He played 15 minutes in this game ahead of Beat Krejci, who actually didn't play at all. I was wondering, once they had Bogey back with Dyson, if they might go to a Bogey-Dyson look, which happened multiple times in this game. It was mixed results, but it's not crazy to do that when they already are trying to play Veet out of position there. I think Dyson's played point guard in the past. He's capable of doing that. It would help if Bogey was Bogey, and he has not been Bogey for most of the season. But if he gets back to being Bogey, that'd be very helpful and something to try. They did sit Trey and Jalen together a few times. I don't love that still, but it didn't bite them too badly in this game. They only played 8 guys in the first quarter, but it was Garrison in the second and the fourth. They actually were kind of in the game a lot, back and forth there. They did not shoot well early in the game, as they did in the entire game, honestly. Took care of the ball. They challenged AD a little bit too much, my liking, in the first quarter. They do that a little bit better, I would say, as the game went along, but it was not the most polished attack at the rim most of the time for Atlanta in this game. Defensively, it got better as the quarter went along. I thought the beginning of the game, they had some transition issues defensively that were rearing their ugly heads, but I'll say this, as the game went along, they got a lot better, and the Lakers didn't really do much at all running after that first quarter, which was a nice step in the right direction defensively. I thought Garrison was not very good in this one. He actually didn't actually get a shot until like seventh minute that he played. Just to put a point on this, I don't really love that they played Garrison in this game. I get it. The theory would be that they want a shooter out there. The more space to make everything easier for everybody else on offense. There is some validity to that. I think people tend to underrate the gravity aspect, because Garrison was 0 for 4 from 3 in this game. That doesn't mean he didn't help everybody else on offense. Like, he is a very helpful floor spacer because teams do respect his jump shot. At the same time, defensively, it was pretty rough, and I thought Veet would give you a little bit more as a passer, as a playmaker, as a defender. But Garrison's a better shooter, so that's kind of the trade-off there. It shows that route. I'll be interested to see if Veet returns the rotation on Saturday against the Clippers, but TBD on that. Kind of a weird moment early in the second quarter with Trey and Jackson Hayes getting a double technical foul. I don't really know why. Honestly, like, there was a bump that Hayes gave Trey after Trey went right through him for a bucket. Trey kind of told the ref about it, and that led to kind of a mini skirmish. I don't know how Trey got a technical foul on that play. I've watched it several times. Maybe it was a magic word said, but that might be rescinded. I don't really see what he even did there. It doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, but still, I thought Jalen had a couple of really nice moments running in the first half. There was actually a fun dunk while his parents were being interviewed on live TV, which is kind of funny. Jalen did not have a great night, I didn't think, but his highs were quite high, I will say, on offense in particular. The role player of the night for the Lakers was Dalton Knecht, who is a good shooter, rookie top 20 pick from Tennessee. But he came into the night shooting 15% from 3 in his last 14 games combined, even as a shooting specialist. And of course, tonight he made three threes in the first half. On brand in some respects. The Hawks were 4-16 from three in the first half. And somehow they were worse in the second half. But I even wrote my notes, like, hard time winning if you're shooting like this in a half. And the Hawks were still in the game. They're only down by 8. They were, in the game despite having the free throw disparity go against them, 3-point shooting go against them. Hunter was struggling. All those things that happened the entire game happened in the first half. They were still in the game, but nothing flipped. Sometimes they'll have a bad half. It'll be a tale of two halves. Second half will be better. Not so much in this time around. The Lakers went up by 13 early in the third quarter. There was a nice stretch from the Hawks in the third. They came alive a little bit. I thought Capella set a great screen to open up Trey for a layup. Dyson drew a charge. Trey got downhill after a handoff for Capella for a 3-point play. Trey was really cooking in the third quarter. He had 11 points in like 4 minutes, really captaining the ship there. The Hawks had some chances, I would say, in that third period to make the game really, really, really tight. And missed opportunities were definitely prevalent for Atlanta in this one. Like, they get to 5, they get to 7. They have 2 shots in the air, they miss them both, and it would come down Lakers to a 3, and you're back down 10. It was that kind of thing over and over again. They played with good pace, I thought, in the third quarter without Trey and Jalen on the floor, and it's sort of encouraging stretch because, look, they're going to have a hard time scoring in the half court without Trey and Jalen on the court. So what you want to do is speed them up, and they did that a little bit. Dyson had a couple nice job kind of getting downhill. Ricochet had a nice moment where he actually went kind of coast to coast for a 3-point play. And he finished with a left hand on the right side. It was actually a nice play by the rookie. But again, they're within 5 late in the quarter, and then Jalen has 2 bad possessions in a row. Offensively, they allow a jumper to Finney-Smith, a jumper to LeBron, and they're back down by 10 again. Like, it was just one of those things where, like, they couldn't quite get there process-wise and even the results. But by the way, the third quarter was maybe more of the microcosm of the night overall. The Hawks lost the third quarter despite playing quite well. Trey had 14 in the quarter, but LA was 5 of 6 from 3 in the third, and the Hawks were 1 of 9. And the Hawks outplayed them in every other way in the third quarter, and they still lost the quarter because they couldn't make a shot. In the fourth, it was pretty ugly early on. Both teams, they couldn't score, which is bad when you're down by 10, basically, as the Hawks were. Jalen had some high points, as I mentioned before, but some low points too. He had the 2 bad possessions at the end of the third quarter. They had one in the fourth where he actually committed just an absolutely awful charge in transition, where it was one-on-one, him and Austin Reeves. The only thing he could do there that would mess that up would be to bowl Reeves over, and he did. And that led to a bucket on the end of the floor, a 4-point swing. I'm not picking on Jalen too much there. It's just one of those things, but like, it was a small window into what happened a lot in this game. Lots of like 1 step forward, 1.5 steps back, and a loss as a result. And then LeBron kind of put it away, I thought, in the middle of the fourth quarter with a shot-making spree. He had 3, a couple of mid-rangers. Like, he was really awesome all night long, honestly. It was kind of a throwback LeBron shooting performance in some respects. And then Trey actually kept trying to make shots. Like, he had a bomb 3, drew a couple fouls, but they just couldn't make up ground in that entire time. And then, of course, the game ends basically on a back-to-back threes by Rui Hachimura and Austin Reeves about the 4-minute mark to kind of put the game out of reach for Atlanta. They were already probably going to lose that one, but that was kind of it. Trey did draw a 3-shot foul after that, but functionally it was over. With 2 minutes to go, they went to David Roddy and Don Barlow, and that was the end of that. So the Hawks ended up losing all 4 quarters in this one, despite the first 3 were all pretty competitive. I'm not sure if this makes it better or worse. They scored 16 points in the fourth quarter. It was mostly that I shouldn't say garbage time because the Hawks were trying until like the 3-minute mark. But it was fitting that the Hawks just couldn't make a shot in the fourth quarter. And the window was kind of open. They were never in control. They were down the whole time. They were playing from behind. But they were in this game until like the 5-minute mark of the fourth quarter. And then just never could get it over the edge. So hopefully that's kind of illustrative and sort of how this game was running down. But, aside from Trey, you'd have a hard time convincing me that anybody was like particularly good on offense, maybe a Kongwu. Everybody else, not so much compared to their own baselines. And then defensively, nice moments, but along the way, we'll get into that in a second when I come to, by the way, if you're a new listener to the podcast, what we do at the end of the podcast is talk about all of the individual players that appeared for the Hawks, their strengths, their weaknesses, how they fared in this game, some nuance, some observations across the way. We'll get into that and more in just one moment. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, or comedy. One of my favorite memories in the last year, honestly, was attending a concert. The energy and excitement were unforgettable and really impactful to me in that setting. And now Game Time has actually made it easier for everybody to get tickets for favorite events with our new feature of Game Time Picks. This feature filters out all of the fluff to only show you the incredible deals on great seats. No wasting time searching through thousands of ticket offerings that you actually don't want or don't need. And recently, I was looking for tickets myself for a football game using the Game Time app, and Game Time Picks actually provides awesome deals. And I could even see the view from the seats that I was looking for before buying those seats. The super deal was also particularly impressive, offering great seats on unbeatable prices. Plus, the app's all-in pricing shows the total cost up front with no surprise fees at the checkout screen. I love that feature at Game Time. Take all of the guesswork out of buying tickets with the folks at the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app right now, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create that account at Game Time and use that code LOCKEDONNBA. That's Locked On NBA. $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download the Game Time app today. What time is it? It's game time. One note that was not related to the game, but is related to a Hawks rotation player. Larry Nance Jr. had his surgery on Thursday officially. He actually is with the team still, so he had the surgery while on the trip. He's still with the team. He's on the bench tonight. The Hawks then announced on Friday that he'll actually begin his rehab right away, and he'll be reevaluated in about 2 weeks. That is not a timeline for return. Keep that in mind. It's a reevaluation timeline. I know this a little bit earlier this week on the show from Jeff Stott, who has this great injury database, but he projects, and the average recovery time for this injury is about 5 weeks or so, 14-ish games. So that's a decent estimate, although the Hawks are saying every 2 weeks they'll reevaluate him. He won't be back in 2 weeks, but we'll see how long it actually is for Nance. But that's sort of step forward. The surgery happened. He's around the team, and there you go. To the actual guys who appeared in this game. 2 guys, only garbage time. David Wright, Don Barlow, nothing really to add there. Garrison Matthews, 15 minutes off the bench, did not score, 0-4 from the floor, did have a block shot and a foul, -6. It was bad for Garrison in this game. I don't think he was very productive. Defensively, he did have good, nice effort moments, but it just doesn't have a whole lot of impact there. The shooting, I want him to shoot more, honestly, but 0-4 in this game is kind of tough to sell that, I know. Like I said before, I probably would have gone with Veit. I don't absolutely hate it. I understand the theory of it, but I would probably like to see Veit a little bit more, even with everybody's healthy. To the rest of the rotation in this game, everybody else played more than 20 minutes for Atlanta. Bogey returns from a 5-game absence. He was not a big factor. 5 points, 3 assists. He had 3 steals, 2 rebounds in 23 minutes. 1 of 2 on 2s, 1 of 4 on 3s. It's just not been Bogey in capital letters this year. I was a leading advocate for how good and impactful Bogey was last year, and I believe every word of that. He was healthy last year. He was flying around. He was playing great, and the on-off splits were massive. His impact for the Hawks was huge. This year, he's not been very good. That's the reality. Getting healthy will be helpful, I'm sure, for Bogey. Getting some flow in his legs. I don't think that you just write him off now. He's obviously a very productive player when he's right. He was not very good in this game, but obviously it's a good thing to have him back for some potency off the bench. Okongwu had 14 points and 11 rebounds, including 7 offensive rebounds in this game for Onyeka. 2 assists, had a block, 4 fouls, -7. He was 7 of 11 on 2s, 0 of 1 from 3. He was good on offense. His finishing around the rim was very helpful. The offensive rebounding, defensively, not his best, I didn't think necessarily. Had a couple of breakdowns, I would say, but also had some nice moments too. Some nice flashes, had a nice block along the way. So I thought it was a good night for Onyeka and his kind of homecoming. He's from the LA area, so nice to have him play well, generally speaking. And I don't think center was a problem at all tonight. Even if people were kind of making it out to be that way, I don't really see that at all. If you watch the game, that was not where the Hawks were getting beat in this one, really at all. DeAndre Hunter. So I want to lead with this. DeAndre Hunter has been absolutely awesome for several weeks now. He was also brutal in this game. Both can be true at the same time. He had this streak going of 16 consecutive games with 15 points or more. That was a franchise record for a reserve. He did have a couple of nights in that run where he didn't shoot the ball well. He had a bad shooting night against the Bucks in that NBA Cup game. He had a bad shooting night against Denver in what was a blowout loss a few weeks ago as well, but not quite like this. So that streak is not over. He goes 1 of 12 from the floor and 0-6 from 3 in the game for 3 points, 3 rebounds and an assist for Hunter. Had 4 fouls. He was just bad in this one, and that doesn't mean he's back to where he used to be or anything like that. He was definitely due for a bad regression night offensively. He's been above his head. Even if you are buying in, and I generally am, to the way he is playing and the way that he's impacting the game, I buy that. But he has been shooting unsustainably well. during this run. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to go 1 of 12, but he was bad in this game. But not only the shot making, but also defensively, he had some rough moments, processing wise. Like, it's one he'll want to forget, obviously. Get back on the court tomorrow and see what happens. But his struggles tonight were definitely part of the problem after he has been a huge part of the solution for the last few weeks. It happens, but that's what happened in this game. To the starters. Clint Capella, 22 minutes, 8 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, no turnovers. Actually had 5 fouls. Clint's usually a very low foul player. -8 in the game. But by the way, 4 of the 5 starters were -8. Dyson was the one that was below that. He played more with the bench units. I thought Clint was fine. His first stint in the first quarter was not my favorite. After that, I thought he was pretty good. Screen setting, rebounding, did a good job, I thought, generally speaking. The finishing in the first quarter again was not, I think he was 0-3 to begin the game, then 4 or 5 after that. It wasn't like his best game at all, but I don't think he was a problem either. And again, he and Okongwu combined to hold AD to 18 points on 20 shots. Like, that's good. It is what it is. Ricochet, 7 points, 3 rebounds, and a steal for Zach. He was mostly quiet. I don't think he had a great game, nor did he have a bad game. He was 3 of 6 on twos, 0 of 2 from 3. 3-point shooting, as I always say, it's got to find his level at some point. It's not quite there yet. For the season now, I think he is somewhere in the neighborhood of 28%. That will have to come up, obviously, in the future. But I thought he did a good job defensively at times. Offensively, a little bit kind of up and down, we'll say, but nothing disastrous. Dyson, 31 minutes, 13 points, 5 steals for the NBA leader in that category, 4 assists, 3 rebounds. He was 5 of 9 on twos, which is actually totally fine, but only 1 of 5 from 3. Offensively, a couple of rough moments for Dyson, but I thought he was at least aggressive. He took 14 shots. I actually like that overall. Him maintaining that aggressiveness is important for Atlanta. Defensively, he was wrecking the game at times. Also, he was guarding facing LeBron. LeBron is too big for Dyson. Even as strong as Dyson is, LeBron kind of big boyed him a couple of times, which makes sense. But at the same time, I thought Dyson was fine in this game. Jalen Johnson. Interesting game. 19 points, 8 rebounds, and a block for Jalen. 3 turnovers, -8. He was 7 of 10 on twos, 1 of 3 from 3. His highs were good. I thought his finishing around the rim was impressive, generally speaking, in this one. When he did attack, he was pretty good. Defensively, he was not very good as a help guy in particular in this one. Lots of breakdowns. A couple of really bad mistakes on offense, too. A couple of turnovers that were just like ghastly ones. The charge against Reeves will be in my head until tomorrow, probably. It was not a good decision by Jalen. So, like, he wasn't bad, but I think he was not as good as the numbers indicate in this game. Like, I think he's had a great season. Lots of encouraging stuff for Jalen, but not his best night, I didn't think, overall. And then Trey, 33 points and 9 assists. 3 turnovers is totally fine for him. Had a steal. He was 7 of 13 on twos, 3 of 9 from 3, 10 of 12 at free throw line. So 33 points on 27 shooting possessions. Wasn't like he was super duper efficient, but certainly was efficient enough to be just fine. And the passing was there. Trey was good. It wasn't like he was absolute A+++ Trey, but certainly B+ or something like that. He was effective. He didn't have a whole lot of help offensively in this one. It was he was the only guy with more than 19 points. The rest of the shooting. By the way, how about this stat? Trey was the only guy on the team that made multiple threes. He was 3 of 9, which is like just fine, 33%. Everyone, the Lakers shot 43% of it as a team. So, yeah. By the way, if you take out Trey's 3-point shooting, it's even worse. How about this stat? Trey's 3 of 9, which is again not great, but it's fine. Take Trey out. Rest of team 3 of 25. From 3. 3 of 25 from 3. The rest of the team, not named Trae Young. Yeah, it was tough. So I'll leave that there for now. Also, Trey, I should also say this. Trey has 3 30-point games in a row and 27 points or more in 5 of the last 6. So he's now finding his scoring stroke a little bit more after some massive assist games this year. The scoring is going up. He's been playing pretty well. Just to, I say it's not a bad loss. The Hawks were underdogs in this game. Do they play well? No. It's just one of those games that's like wholly unsatisfying to lose, especially against the Lakers and the implication on the draft side. It's a tough one for sure. I'm sure everybody was not happy about the result. But as far as like how they played, it wasn't terrible. They shot terribly, to be sure. It's not a game that like you love to lose, but they were underdogs for a reason. It is what it is. Speaking of that, they are still in Los Angeles on Saturday across town to see actually the new Intuit Dome to face the Clippers on Saturday. Quick turnaround. It's a back-to-back. Late night again for me and everybody else on the East Coast. 4th game on the 6-game road trip for the Hawks. Also, it appears to be a return of Kawhi Leonard, who has not played this year at all. He is reportedly going to debut on Saturday. I will save my full rant about this, but as something that actually bothers me about the NBA in general, the Clippers listed him as out, not doubtful, out on the official injury report multiple times. So every hour during the day, teams that are playing have to put in an injury report update. If anything changes, they update it, right? He was out for several hours. Not doubtful, out. Then miraculously, it was reported by Shams and Chris Haynes and others that he was going to play. It's like, well, he's listed as out. And then moments later, at 11:30 p.m. Eastern time, he became questionable. Oh, it's a miracle. So anyway, I don't really care. It is what it is. And Kawhi is probably not going to play a lot of minutes, I wouldn't say, after not playing all year. But he's a great player. I don't really care about that. But my stance for a long time is this. If you list a player as out, not doubtful, out, he should be out. Like, you shouldn't be allowed to do that. Once you list a player as out, he should be not allowed to play, in my opinion. Because if there's any doubt at all, you list the guy as doubtful. That's what should happen. So the Clippers, by the way, have been famous for this in fantasy circles, betting circles, etc. They are a team that's just like terrible with injury reports. And Kawhi is a good example of that. This is one of the examples of that. So anyway, long story short, he's probably going to play by the reporting that's out there on Saturday. And the Clippers are a decent team. They're not incredible. They are a playoff-ish level contender team. 19 and 15 this year is probably better than they actually are. They're about 500-ish when it comes to their point differential. They've lost the last 2 games in a row. That'll be a nice test for Atlanta. Harden's questionable for the Clippers as well, I believe, in that game. Kawhi's probably going to play, and we'll see. But a nice test. And by the way, the Clippers were off tonight, so a rest disadvantage for Atlanta. No travel other than just going back to the hotel, which is probably nice. But the Hawks played their guys a lot tonight, so we'll see how they respond in about, as I'm recording this podcast, 20 hours or less, because it is now 2 a.m. So please forgive me for anything crazy I might have said on this podcast, because it's 2 a.m. Anyway, please subscribe to the podcast. I appreciate everybody listening to the show. I'll have a show again after the game on Saturday into Sunday morning, and then the rest of the week as always. But subscribe on Apple, and subscribe on Spotify, and on YouTube. Please like the video as you're watching it and tell your friends about the podcast. You can find the podcast on Twitter /X at Locked On Hawks. You can find me there at BT Rowland. I'm also on Blue Sky at BT Rowland. And you can find my non-podcast work about the Hawks, including a preview of the Lakers game, et cetera, extra audio at patreon.com/BT Rowland. All right, that's all I have. Everybody, enjoy your Saturday, and we'll see you again right here in the same place in about 20 hours. Stay tuned. We'll see you next time.